Is the record heat a secret investment opportunity? All right, guys, the Wall Street Journal ran a piece called Arizona Voters at Breaking Point over Cost of Electricity. Article got me thinking. Some of the realities for people in hot regions like the Southwest where I live, they're nasty. We're hearing about gas prices, and we're not hearing as much about electricity costs, and those are skyrocketing. The more demand there is on the grid, the more expensive it gets to generate that power, especially as less efficient methods are used during peak times. Makes sense, right? Solar adoption, particularly in lower income communities, is definitely lagging behind. I think that makes the situation even worse. Here's the thing. I'm not a politician. You're not a politician. Thank the Lord. Let's put our investor hats on and ask some good questions. I want you to understand how my mind works. I'm not Peter Lynch from Magellan Fund Fidelity, but he did teach us about investing by walking around. Use your everyday life to make better investment decisions. Stay curious, open to learning, and keep an open mind about changing your mind when you figure out you're wrong. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at solar stocks. That's one way I imagine consumers are giving the middle finger to rising electricity costs. So what broad baskets can we use to figure out, is solar working or not working for the last 1, 3, 5 years? ETFs like Trane, ICLN, and QCLN, they give us a good feel for the broad market of solar and clean energy as a whole. Look at their 5-year charts. They're on the screen. Ugly. They rely heavily on government subsidies for that profitability they need, and it makes them really sensitive to politics, which I hate. The investors are voting with their dollars, which has not been pretty. Now let's shift gears to utilities. Are these folks raking in the cash from these rising prices? Historically, utilities are one of the most defensive sectors. Dependable protection from bear markets and really boring during bulls. So how are Arizona's utilities doing? That's what I was wondering. Their big one is Pinnacle West Capital Corporation, ticker PNW. Woo! Snooze fest. And it's done even worse than the S&P 500 Utilities Index as a group. So we're striking out here. These utilities, the whole sector just makes up 2.5% of the S&P 500 index. I wouldn't over-allocate to that group, regardless of how I feel about any specific company, business, stock ticker. Let's move on. We're going to talk about something that hit home for me this week. My air conditioning, my AC unit broke. It was 21 years old. So I had no choice but to replace it. My wife and my kids are here. I want to make sure that they're comfortable. I was given a bunch of different equipment options by reputable contractors here in San Diego. They gave me 3 equipment manufacturer names that made sense: Bosch, Carrier, and Trane. All great brands. So as an investor, I started thinking, how do I get some of my money back? These systems are expensive. Maybe like the cost of a Honda Civic for each one. So the growing demand for energy efficient ACs in a world with rising temperatures presents an opportunity from my point of view. The pressure on homeowners to upgrade their units, coupled with government regulations that are quickly phasing out dirty refrigerants. I don't know if you all are familiar, but R22, that's a big one in California that's already illegal. So if you have a system that uses it, shit out of luck. You can't get R22. If your system breaks, you got to replace it. So to me, that makes this an interesting sector. So I want to take a look at the largest public air conditioning manufacturers: Carrier Global Corporation, ticker CARR, and Trane Technologies, ticker TT. Unfortunately for us, Bosch is privately held. No investment opportunity there for us. But Carrier and Trane are both part of the industrial sector. Now, industrials are about 8.5% of the S&P 500. And despite their stellar history, Carrier and Trane only carry tiny weights in the index. You're talking about less than 0.2% for Carrier and less than 0.25% for Trane. It's insignificant. Now look at their 5-year returns. Wow, impressive. Carrier over 500% and Trane over 300%. Gets me excited. Both have crushed the benchmark S&P 500, and they look more like tech stocks than boring industrials. So is AC the new AI? Relax, probably not. But it's worth noodling on how do we make these companies have a greater impact on our portfolios. Because obviously they're not pushing on the S&P 500 all that much with their giant 0.5% weight together. Bring this back full circle. When you're thinking about rising costs or working on a project in your home, think about how do you get your money working for you in the process. I think all of you would agree that this simple framework can be applied to so many aspects of our lives. I think of this when I go grocery shopping, when I eat out, when I buy a new iPhone, or I'm installing apps on that phone. Every time I do, I think about who's providing this product, who's their competition, and how have they performed historically. And I use those things to build portfolios for myself and sometimes friends and family. If you don't have access to wonderful investment software and you want to know where do I dig up returns and ETFs and indexes and ask good questions, the answer is simple. OpenAI's ChatGPT is an amazing tool to help you with all of this. So I highly recommend paying the $20 a month, getting the fanciest, latest version, and using it every single day when you have these conversations with yourself.